Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Volume 8, Chapter 6 of RWBY. So last we left off, things did not look so good for Penny. The message got out. We even got to see some characters we haven't seen for a little bit, including Ilya, Sun, Neptune, and even Glinda. So maybe implying they're going to be returning soon to the series? Maybe within the next couple volumes even? I don't know. But in the meantime, Penny had to help lift up the tower after things were missed, after the entire window was missed and things were destroyed. Also tower, it's more stadium and everything, Coliseum. But in the meantime, she was hacked by Watts. And in my initial reaction, I noted how she was kind of shut down and everything. She was being rebooted. And I think I misinterpreted something because after rewatching the episode and stuff, I think it kind of stated that she might have been taking control, but it had to reboot her system. So once she reboots, she'll probably be in control, but Ironwood, or they'll probably be in control, but Ironwood sent the Aesops in Winter just in case, just to make sure they get her and everything. I think it's supposed to be that she's under control. My initial assumption was that she was just that resetting her, rebooting her was all they did. Was all Watts did, but that wouldn't make sense. I feel like that would just not be much of anything to do. Because it's like there's no guarantee they would be able to get there and get her in time before either the cold messed with her systems or something or someone else found her. It's just that would seem like a too risky of a move. And while Watts definitely wants Penny gone, I don't think he necessarily did that. I think it was more taking control, which is kind of what I expected. Her to have control taken over her and maybe end up being like a temporary antagonist to some degree. The question is, will it go far enough to where the vault is open? Because that would be very bad. Because the thing is, right now, Ruby and them, they have no idea what's going on. And Pietro doesn't even really fully know what's going on either. He just knows that she went out there, she helped lift it up, and then she said, like, I love you, Dad, and just kind of disappeared. I'm sure he doesn't exactly know that she was hacked. So it's not like he could even tell everyone. And meanwhile, there's also the River of Grimm headed towards the city, so that's bad. Things are just not working out well right now. And I knew this was coming because I did know beforehand that this season was supposed to be darker and more intense than previous ones. That was kind of one of the big things about Volume 8 going in, that it was going to be one hell of a ride. I didn't know how, but now I'm starting to see it. I still don't think Penny's going to die. I still don't think Penny is going to die because I just feel like, again, it would be narratively a bad decision to kill her off twice. And especially with how this series has gone and with her popularity and with just everything they've been showcasing with her character. Plus, I think it would be just a bad narrative decision to kill off a maiden this soon after getting her powers. Like, and we've seen that she got her powers on screen, so it would just be way too soon. Even if it were by the end of this volume, it would just be way too soon. So I definitely don't think that's going to happen. Um, and then there's the fact of like after the attack and everything that Cinder, Neo, and Emerald staged on Penny. It was basically just on Penny. Maria and Pietro just got kind of caught up in it. Mostly Maria. Pietro really didn't have much to do with the fight at all. um, but yeah, because of the attack, Cinder was at least hurt. Emerald and Neo got her out of there, and they're headed back. And considering they did all this against the orders of Salem, if Salem finds out, which she probably will, hell, she probably already knows. I I know how mean it kind of sounds, but I really hope that Salem kicks the shit out of her for this. That she gets punished in some way at least. Maybe it's just because of how much I do not like Cinder as a character. Like, not even just like, oh, she kind of just sucks. No, I don't like her as a character. I don't think she's a well handled character. It's not even just because of that, though. It's just, there's no reason to want anything good for her. So it's just like, I just kind of want her to get her comeuppance by this point. And then there's Oscar, who's still trapped on the ship, presumably continuously being tortured by Hazel and Salem. Crow and Robin are still locked away. But Harriet does seem to have started to see things in a different light, or at least question things a little bit, even if not publicly, she's doing it in her mind. Um, so that's going to be interesting once that comes to a head, if that comes to a head. Hopefully it will. Ren has been having issues. So it's just like a lot has been happening in just these first uh, few episodes of this season, of this volume. And now we're at chapter 6, and it's like there's only this episode and the next episode before the hiatus until February. And it's like, how are they going to close this out? How are they going to like leave us hanging? I mean, I assume that they didn't initially plan for there to be as long of a hiatus, but I assume there was going to be a mid-season hiatus either way, because there usually is. So I assume they planned for some kind of like big mid-season moment to leave off on. I just don't know what it's going to be. It's, in my mind, either it's got to be something really bad, or it's just going to be a moment that really just really hits hard for this season. And maybe it's just because of the tone of this season, but I keep thinking back to Volume 3. And I think I mentioned this before when I first talked about the mid-season hiatus, but I keep thinking back to how Volume 3 ended out, with the entire thing with Yang being taken into custody after breaking Mercury's leg and everything. And then how the first episode back was for like the first half of it, just like telling us like the backstory of how Cinder recruited Mercury and Emerald. And well, even Adam to a point. But then also like continuing on things and basically showing the shit show that started in the episode before the hiatus. And that was a good way to leave off and a good way to come back. So I wonder if they're going to do something similar in this volume. I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to find out. But I am very excited. This volume's been fantastic so far, like without question. But yeah, it's like I can't wait to see what they do with it and where they go. I definitely still think at least one person is going to die, but possibly multiple. And I'm honestly thinking Ironwood is probably one of the best candidates for that. I still think that's going to happen. I think it's just like really obvious. Um, which might be a reason why they might not, to be fair, but I really kind of think it would be the best decision narratively at this point. Cinder has had a couple death flags on her, to be honest, especially with the first episode opening with what appeared to be possibly her, from her past. Um, Ren is a possible death as well, which would really suck because it's like Team Juniper does not need another death on their hands. Let's be honest. But with everything, with what they've been doing with Ren and Nora as well, in like last season and this season now, it would honestly not surprise me. It would make sense. It would work for what they've built up. I really don't think any member of Team RWBY's going to die. I don't think Nora is going to die. She's injured, she's scarred, but she's not going to die. Um, and again, it's not going to be Penny. I definitely don't think it's going to be Winter or any of the Happy Huntresses or anyone like that. Any of the other Aesops either. I don't think any of them are going to die. But I mean, you never know. The show could easily surprise us in a lot of ways. So we'll have to see. Um, but either way, I am really excited to see what they do with this. So we're going to get started. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Excuse me, at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I'm conflicted. The second half of this episode was fantastic, and yeah, next episode's going to be insane because it's the last episode before the mid-season hiatus that's going to last until February. So it's like this episode alone would have been a good way to end off before the hiatus, but no, they have to have another episode, and that scares the shit out of me, but in the best way. In the best way. But the first half of this episode, basically the Cinder backstory. Two things about it. One, I feel like it's a red flag. I feel like this is a death flag for Cinder. Like, she's already had some this season, but I definitely feel like that's another. I think Cinder's going to die this season, which I might be proven wrong, and honestly, and again, it might just be because I kind of want her to. I just want her to be done. I don't want any more of her in this series. I don't. But I don't know. Everything's just kind of pointing to that for me. But it's also pointing to maybe the possibility of her redemption, which I really don't want to have. Which I really don't want to have happen, because I think, like, as I said earlier, it's like I don't remember if it was in the pre-thoughts or the actual reaction itself, but it's too little, too late. I think it was in the reaction. She's not a redeemable character in my eyes. This backstory, it did nothing for me. It didn't make me sympathize with her. Like, yeah, sure, maybe I can empathize a little bit. Maybe I can admit that seeing that kind of blatant abuse and shit is terrible. But that by no means absolves Cinder of her actions. And it by no means makes her a likable character, like, at all. Or likable as a character in terms of the writing around her. The backstory itself was fine. I mean, except for the fact that it's like Cinder was supposed to be 10 years old at first in it, and it's like she looked like she was at least 15, and it's just like, I get it. RWBY wants to be like anime, but that doesn't mean you have to go that far. She looked older than Oscar does. And Oscar's like, what, 13, 14 years old, something like that? And in her flashback at 10 years old, she looked notably older than he does. Not just older, notably older. So it's like I don't know what they were doing there, and the fact that Jessica Negri also voiced her at that point, it's just like couldn't they just find someone else to voice a younger Cinder? It just, especially for like being 10 years old, it's like she doesn't sound like a 10-year old. It's like that kind of thing has always bothered me in a lot of anime, admittedly. Um, but it's like I don't know, it just really just bothered me here, and maybe again, maybe it is just because of how much I dislike Cinder, but as it is, but still, that's just. Ugh. But yeah, the backstory itself was okay. It was basically just Cinderella with the added twist of, oh, she was trained by a huntsman for years. Presumably, it never actually said that, but it it said that she only had a couple years left by the end. So yeah, it would have had to have been years because it was 7 years from the beginning. So yeah, it was years. It did confirm that. Um, we don't know how many exactly, but yeah. But the thing is, we did see her physically growing up. It did look like she was older by the end of it than she was at the beginning. Um, but yeah, she one day she just kind of snapped and killed her evil stepsisters and evil stepmother, and the huntsman who was training her, because he was a huntsman, he had to take her in for that. But she fought back and killed him as well. And it's like this really doesn't, like, is this supposed to help her case? Is this supposed to make us feel for her? Because it really doesn't. It just comes across as she's just still unlikable. And now she has a backstory where it explains like what made her this way, but it doesn't excuse her actions. And then the fact that she's serving Salem as well, which I thought we were going to get as part of the backstory when I saw the beginning of the first episode. I thought that, like, okay, we were going to get a backstory this season for Cinder, and I was thinking it was going to include how she met Salem, but nope, that wasn't part of it. But why would she work with Salem? I mean, again, the only reason is I could think of would be the same reason that we find Hazel is, and that's because just he doesn't believe anyone can stop her. So it's like, why not align with her? But it's like, based on her past, it's like Salem just goes from one abusive situation to another, and it's like, or Cinder goes from one abusive situation to another, and so it's like, is this any better than what you were with before? Like the only difference here is that she has power now. Like that's really the only difference, honestly. Uh, it's just, yeah, I just feel like this flashback was what it was trying to do. It felt like it was just trying to make us feel bad for her and understand her and stuff, as if it's trying to redeem her, trying to make her more likable as a character, and it's not working. Everything after that though was fantastic. I really enjoyed everything that we got to see in the second half of the episode. Um, we got to see Mercury has ascended. He's no longer working under Cinder, but Salem has given him a new position. We see Hazel's actually starting to come through, it seems. He's starting to realize that working for Salem is not a good idea, but he's only starting to realize that. Ozpin was starting to get through to him, but not enough, I feel. So it's not like he's going to just turn right away. But there is a little something more there than there was before. Um, which kind of goes with what Ozpin and Oscar's plan was, to kind of infiltrate and help stop her from the inside. Meanwhile, we find out that the device that Watts stole allowed him to communicate with Tyrion and tell what was going on. So now Salem is going to send the Hound as well as Cinder out, basically on the same mission, I guess, to see who can do what first, who can try to gather Penny first. So they're after Penny. Winter and the Aesops are technically supposed to be after Penny, though they made a pit stop because they received Jean's message, and now they've seen everything else that's happening, which I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, it's just like things are not going exactly according to plan at all. Things are going very wrong. We see that there's still the possibility of the Aesops turning on Ironwood and stuff, especially after seeing the end here. And let's get to that now. Let's just get to that. So, Salem is finally on the attack. She's been kind of just waiting for a bit, but now she's finally going to be on the attack. So, with the River of Grimm and everything coming along, she starts to send Grimm up to the hard light shields surrounding Atlas. She manages to use them to break the shields, and the whale lands on Atlas. Monstra lands on Atlas, and the Grimm come out. The attack has begun. I stated last season at the very end, last volume at the end, when Salem arrived on Monstra, that the war has begun. And even though we hadn't gotten to the big fighting between Salem's forces and the forces of good yet, the war had still technically begun at that point. Salem had arrived. She had come into the airspace surrounding Atlas and was prepared to attack. The actual battle hadn't begun yet, but the war had. So this is where things really kick off. The war has already begun, but now the battle begins. She is actively attacking. She is actively sending her forces into Atlas. And Winter and the Aesops aren't there. They're not there. They were sent away to get Penny and everything. So the kingdom's best defenses aren't even there. So yeah, just continuing to show how Ironwood is screwing himself with his terrible plans and shit. But this is going to be insane because, like I said, this could have easily ended off the first half of this volume before the mid-season hiatus, but no, they're not ending off until after episode 7. There's one more episode, one more chapter before the hiatus, and as I said, that's terrifying. What the hell are they going to have? What the hell are they going to show? What is going to happen? Who is going to get hurt? Who is going to die? Shit is going to go down in the final chapter before the hiatus. And it's definitely only the beginning. Like, I'm starting to see where this could be leaving off. The battle's going to begin, and at the very end of next episode, I think someone's going to be in trouble. Something very bad is going to happen, but we're not going to actually see the conclusion of what that is yet. And that's going to be where the episode after the hiatus is over starts from. That's what I'm guessing. And I can't tell you, I can't even begin to tell you what I think it's going to be. It could be the possibility of someone dying. It could be maybe at least the threat of someone dying, but it could be something else. Watts could be broken free because we know that that is one of their goals here. Penny could be captured by the Hound, or even by well, I doubt it's gonna be the Aesops in Winter at this point, but maybe. But it also could be like Cinder. Because I still don't fully understand why Salem's letting her off her leash, basically. Like she's saying, like Salem's saying, about Cinder, it's like, you failed me, you've betrayed me, you've done what I told you not to, and it's my fault. I tried to, basically what she said is, I tried to hold you back too much, and it's like, what? What is her goal here? What is she planning? Is she planning for Cinder to maybe die? And then the fact that she's sending Cinder and the Hound for the same goal, and like basically saying like, okay, which one of you will get her first? And it's like, are you trying to make this a contest? And if the Hound gets her, what are you going to do to Cinder? I, I'm I have no idea what's going on there, what Salem's planning with that. But unfortunately, she didn't beat the shit out of Cinder, which is disappointing. um, but yeah, shit is going down, and it's gonna be interesting, to say the least. It's gonna be interesting. The attack on Atlas has begun, and honestly, it's completely Ironwood's fault that it's gonna go poorly. Because honestly, if Ironwood had been going along with and helping out with our heroes' plans, they would have been in much better position for this attack. Like, the attack probably would have still happened, but they'd be in much better position to combat it. Things wouldn't be as fucked as they are now. This is solely because of Ironwood here. And I hope he realizes that. He probably won't, but I hope he does. But yeah. Yeah. I am excited to see how next episode ends things off before the hiatus. It's gonna be insane. It's terrifying to even think about. Someone might die, or at least be close to. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll have to see next week. But in the meantime, tell me in the comments below what you thought of Volume 8, Chapter 6 of RWBY, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.